Did you know that a horse's heart generates an electromagnetic field up to 5 times larger than a human's? It radiates outward like some sphere that can directly influence the heart rhythm, and anyone standing near that beautiful creature feels it too. This is why people cry around horses without even knowing why. This is why horses are such incredible therapy animals. And this year will amplify whatever you're carrying in your heart. Your energy is not just felt by you. The year of the fire horse is tomorrow, guys. Everyone is talking about this forward momentum, bold action, the year of the snake, the shed into the year of the horse. This is what this whole series has been about, big moves. But no one is talking about the real horse medicine. Horses are emotional mirrors, and take this analogy as we continue today, okay? Horses are emotional mirrors. Studies show they absorb and reflect the emotional state of the humans around them. So if you're calm, they are calm. If you're anxious, they're going to feel it too. The fire horse year will reflect your energy right back at you. So what is our goal here? We regulate first. We unthaw from that freeze, right? That pause before the action, and then you step into it. And guess what? Horses only sleep, and I didn't know this, about 3 hours a day. So when they lie down for a deep rest, another horse is always standing guard. This isn't the year to glorify exhaustion, but it is the year to ask who you trust enough to truly let your guard down around. And maybe you're going to find out that you have to be the one that trusts yourself more, and trusting yourself to let that guard down even for yourself. Rest is not weakness, it is strategy, guys. And horses even have what's called a coherent heart rhythm, a pattern linked to calm and low stress. So their field is so powerful that simply standing near a horse can shift your own heart into that same rhythm. So become the most regulated version of yourself this year, and watch how everybody around you starts to shift too. Because why? Coherence is contagious. And that is our theme. Hello, welcome to the Raw Onion, episode 3 of this series. We're going from the shed to the action, the year of the snake, last day today, guys, and we jump and bound into the year of the fire horse tomorrow. And today on the Raw Onion, we are really leaning into that freeze state before the run. We've talked about the shed in the last 2 episodes, what that year of the snake was dissolving, all the old skin, all of the oldness. And now, of course, we're going to be talking about jumping into the year of the horse, that action where your muscles start to move and you start to really get into coherence with who you really are. But before we're going to do that, we're going to talk today about the freeze before that run. Why knowing what you want is not enough. So have you ever actually really known what you need to do? You know what you need to do, right? And then maybe done absolutely nothing about it? Who's secretly raising their hand? It's not really procrastination, but it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I know I need to do it, but I just can't. Well, you're not confused, and you're not lazy, and you're not blocked. You are regulated for a life you're leaving behind. Let me say that again. Obviously, jumping into something brand spanking new is not as easy as just doing it, right? Why? Because every cell in our bodies is used to and regulated for the life that we've had already. The life that we now know consciously we want to change. So before we change, we have to re-regulate ourselves for what's to come, right? Doesn't that make sense? This isn't rocket science here. It makes sense. We just haven't ever had the time to really think about it. So tomorrow we move from the introspective year of the snake into that bold fire horse energy. And right before that momentum, there is a freeze. It's not because we're incapable. It's because our nervous systems are recalibrating and we got to give it a shot to recalibrate. We have to give it some time. And this reminds me of a story, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. I've talked about it a little bit, but we'll make an episode, maybe even a series about real burnout. But, before I started this career path of business owner and entrepreneur, I had a very, very demanding job in major, very, very high-end event production. And it was incredible. It brought me experiences that I could, above and beyond what I could ever fathom to imagine. It was incredible. But I completely burned out. And there are many reasons for that, and it didn't end well for me. And so I and my body, even though I have done the work, I've moved past it. And now, as you can see, obviously, running a business that I'm incredibly proud of on a very heartfelt and soul level. But my body, my mind was not primed for this right out the gate. And to be very honest with you, it took about 2 years before I could actually bring that dream that was in my head out into physical action. And when you're thinking about it, I guess it's a great analogy for, really 2 years of shedding that old self-identity before I could really jump into action. And now we can use that analogy of being in that horse energy, right? And this wasn't about stalling or wasting time. It was about recalibrating because my system was not ready for what I knew I wanted to do. The over-researching, I'm sure. How many people have done that? Oh, I just need to take one more class. If it's something like starting a business, let me redesign my website that might take another 6 months, or maybe it's a relationship that you're thinking, I gotta leave, and then maybe he or she does something really sweet. Let me give it one more chance. Always the loop, right? Or maybe empty nesters. Your babies are leaving for college, and oh my gosh, I've always wanted to do X, Y, and Z, but no, I identify only as a parent. So jumping into the new, it takes a minute. And clarity often precedes paralysis, and that's not a character flaw, it's biology. And what do I mean by that? Before you have that clarity of what I really want to do, things are usually kind of vague. And the same thing can be true. You don't really know yet. Well, I kind of want to do this. I'm kind of unhappy where I'm at right now. I'm kind of restless. But the second you switch from kinda to, yes, I am unhappy, I'm going to need to do something about this. Yes, this doesn't satisfy me anymore. Let me change. Or maybe that friendship or relationship, marriage, whatever the case may be, maybe it's just not working, and instead of giving it one more go, you're done. And maybe before that moment of clarity gets from the brain to the body, you need to take some time, right? So what's actually happening in the brain when I say we need to take a minute? And today, for lack of better words, we're going back to the freeze before the run. What is that freeze? What's going on? Okay, here, let's talk a little science. We're a neuroscience-based podcast. I hope you're all ready to learn because this is great for all of us. We all have a brain. Some of us use it more than others on any given day, but we all got one and we all have a body. So let's simplify the players here. What's actually happening in the brain? First of all, you've got probably my favorite part, the prefrontal cortex. That's called, for lack of better words, the strategist. This is the front of the brain. It handles planning, logic, decision-making, future thinking. It says we could launch, we should launch, or we need to leave. It's time to evolve. But the prefrontal cortex does not control action by itself. It proposes the idea, but it doesn't execute. And then we go on to the other guy up in that good old brain of ours, the limbic system. Limbic is your emotional scanner. That's where your amygdala lives. We all know the amygdala, our little threat detector. So deep inside your brain, that's where limbic lives. Its job, threat detect, store emotional memory, track safety, monitor belonging. And like I said, the amygdala is asking in there, is this safe? And the brain often processes social rejection, uncertainty, and get this, identity change using the same pathways as physical danger. So the limbic system might be really kind of messing you up right now, thinking that, oh boy, this great idea that prefrontal had might not be safe because if it's shifting my identity, that amygdala in your limbic system is flagging physical danger, and it ain't true, but it's doing it to keep you safe. So when you raise your prices in a program or a business, let's say you're starting a business, you become more visible. You start to set boundaries in relationships or at work. Maybe you stop people pleasing. Your limbic can interpret this as, oh, this could cost us connection. And historically, loss of connection means survival risk. So it slows down. It starts to freeze. Not because your ideas are wrong, not because your intentions or your thoughts are wrong to go forward. It's because of all of this. There's a lot going on in your brain at any given moment. And let's talk about one other character up there in your good old noggin. The action gatekeeper, the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia are deep brain structures responsible for initiating movement, building habits, automating behavior. This is what Yoshie and I talk about all the time. We talk about how we need to repattern when we're at the crossroads in life. It's not about just deciding to do something and then doing it. We know that. We have to repattern our automatic behaviors first. And actually, now this is not a sales pitch, but we are very close to launching exactly this, a very quick, you can do it in a weekend, 3-module program that helps you begin this process immediately. So we'll let you guys know when it launches, but this is exactly what this program is meant to do. Re-automate your behavior. Begin to restructure the new norm for the new you. We'll talk about that later, but let's move on. That basal ganglia is deciding whether to go or to pause. It loves familiarity. It loves patterns. It loves repetition. So if you're a person who speaks boldly, takes up space, earns at a new level, or leaves safely, there is no established pattern yet, so the basal ganglia hesitates, not because you can't do it, because you haven't done it before. And please make that distinction in your mind. You are not failing at anything. When you decide to level up your game or switch to a new phase, it's resisting not because you can't, but because you haven't yet. And your prefrontal cortex is basically saying, I understand what to do. Your limbic is saying, is it emotionally safe? And your basal ganglia is saying, do we have proof this works yet? If safety is low and familiarity is low, action stalls. Here we are, right in the freeze zone, right? But let me tell you something pretty powerful. Under stress, cortisol reduces efficiency in the prefrontal cortex, the very part responsible for planning and decision-making, which means the more you pressure yourself to act, the less access you have to clear execution. This is why forcing yourself rarely works long-term. How many times? We can even go back to this realignment over resolutions series that we did in January. Remember, forcing things does not mean sustainability. Your body and mind are going to hate you for it. You got to regulate first. You can't just crack yourself out of a freeze state. You have to thaw out first, right? Think of yourself as a chicken breast. I don't know. You can't just eat the frozen chicken. It's frozen. Same as your nervous system. What are you going to do? You're frozen, right? You got to thaw first. You can't force it. You can't force it. And let me share something with you too. Along with this is grief. And I told you about this with my new exercise program that I'm starting up again, right? I'm really trying to move again and starting Pilates again. And a few episodes ago, I was telling you guys how my hips, right? When you're doing Pilates, there's a lot of hip openers. And my gosh, the emotion that flowed out of me the first few times I did that. That was crazy. There was so much stored up that I never, ever realized because my body was still frozen. My body was still not somatically engaged. And there was old grief stuck in there for whatever reason. When you leave something behind, when you're moving forward, there is a moment where you have to say goodbye. Old identities dissolve. Old coping strategies don't come with you guys in this next phase. It's loss. And your body needs to mourn a bit. You don't want to live there, but you have to let it move through your body. It's not drama, because grief often looks like stillness. And even when this new version of you is going to look better, feel better, and do better, and take more action in a better, healthier way, it doesn't mean that there's no grief in letting go of the past, because the past served you. The past kept you safe in the best way you know how. And you don't know what you don't know, right? If you look back with regret, that's okay. Because everything that you do is always just trying to keep you safe. So give yourself some grace in letting go. That's also part of the thawing out of the freeze before this action stage, before you really start to stride like that beautiful, majestic horse. Action is a somatic decision. And here's this breakthrough for us. Action does not begin as a thought. It begins as a shift in physiological safety. So when your body feels, and get this is doable, and this is your ding, ding, ding biohack of the day. When your body feels 5% safer, slightly more regulated, and research shows even regulated enough, again, around 5%. This is minimal. This is something we can all do. When your body starts to feel slightly less braced for impact, just 5%. The basal ganglia now has enough evidence to say, oh, wait a minute, this is survivable. We can do this. And then movement becomes possible. And when I say movement becomes possible, I mean literally and figuratively. Going back to this exercise analogy, I ain't no bodybuilder, folks. I'm not going to work out trying to be some kind of a bro who's, weightlifting and jumping in the ring, right? I am exercising to actually feel my body again, to actually engage between the mind and the body again. That is absolutely vital because all of these brain mechanisms need to feel it in the mind and the body to say, wait a minute, this is survivable. We can do this, and actually, this feels pretty darn good. Movement is empowerment. Movement is empowerment. So instead of asking what's wrong with me, ask what would make me feel 5% safer. Not the brave step, but the safe step. Micro movement builds familiarity. Familiarity builds safety. And safety unlocks action. Horse energy reflects your energy right back at you. Remember? Remember what we shared right at the beginning? So you regulate first, you thaw second, aka feel safe, 5% safer. And then the third step is you start to bound forward. And action can mean many things. Movement, ideal, right? We want to engage the body so it feels somatically safe, so it can tell the brain we're safe. But even action in writing that email, even action in making that phone call, stop the relationship or set up a boundary or whatever you need, those are actions. Any action that makes you feel 5% safer. Remember that movement is empowerment. And here's a final fun fact as we move into the year of the horse. In the Chinese zodiac, the horse is traditionally associated, again, here we go with movement, freedom, independence, and momentum. But here's what's fascinating. The fire element amplifies intensity. It makes things faster. It makes things more visible, right? What did we talk about? Clarity precedes action. When you have that idea that things need to change, that's where we are today. And historically, fire horse years have been described as powerful and even rebellious. Not reckless, rebellious. Why? Because you're doing something you've never done before. And that's why Yoshie and I chose this topic at exactly the time we did, because it aligns so beautifully with where so many of us are. We know change needs to happen. We just don't know how to make it happen. And that's why we're here today, and we're here at the Raw Onion in general talking about it, right? It's important for the collective right now. And here's the connection to today's episode. The horse does not bolt from panic. It doesn't let the amygdala go crazy and say, run and hide. No. But it runs when it feels its own strength. Horses are prey animals, which means they are incredibly sensitive to safety cues. They read the nervous system around them. They move when the field feels clear. And that's what we're talking about today, right? You've got to feel clarity in your own process of thawing out. You have to feel clarity in what you really want before your body feels safe enough to move. It runs when it feels its own strength. And they move when the field feels clear. So the energy of the fire horse isn't force yourself into action. It's regulate, sense the field, and then run. And maybe the most powerful thing you can carry into tomorrow and the rest of this year is you don't need to override your freeze. You need to build the safety that lets your fire move. The snake sheds, the horse runs. But even a horse listens to its nervous system first. So may your fire horse year not be fueled by anxiety, but by alignment. Very, very heartfelt thank you for listening and taking the time with Yoshie, my beautiful co-pilot here, and I at the Raw Onion. And as we take in our final day of thawing out and gaining clarity in our next steps in the run, we encourage you to listen to yourself, listen to your nervous system, and really understand that all it takes is feeling 5% safer than you do right now, and the rest is golden. Happy Year of the Fire Horse, happy Lunar New Year, and we will join you next week for the 4th installment of this series. And we have a very, very special 4th edition coming next week, so I hope everybody stays tuned. And until then, signing off, the Raw Onion, Stephanie and Yoshie, thank you so much for listening, guys. Over and out.